Guys, we're only a couple of days, and let's do the math, all right? We're 5 days. 5 days into the announcement that Francis will not be coming back, title is vacated, that Jon Jones is returning and Jon Jones will be competing with Ciryl Gane. 5 days. Does that surprise you? Because it feels like longer, doesn't it? It feels like longer. That news came out. That news set in. That was a big deal. Then we hear from Francis. That was a big deal. Then we recap what Francis said. And then we hear from Stipe. And then we process all of that. And then we remember the light heavyweights. And the 125 pounder is going to be fighting for world championships this week. And we try to shift our direction over there. And all of that time goes by. It's been 5 days. And one thing about it is Jon, in some ways, is being counted out. Now, those are slim ways. Hear me out. Jon is currently the favorite. 5 days ago, when this fight was announced, Jon was the underdog. That only lasted for a couple of hours. And even when Jon became the favorite, it was slight. It's about 1 plus 125 to negative 105. That's close. That's closer than any other Jon Jones fight that you can tell me about. Right? Closer than any Jon Jones title fight ever that you can tell me about. Okay. Well, you then have the fact that Ciryl does appear on paper to be better stand-up fighter than Jon Jones. I can't concede that to you. I just think Jon Jones on his feet is one of the scariest propositions that you're going to come across. I know what Jon can do to you on the ground. You guys have seen that. I think on his feet, I think the fight that he did with Gustafsson, I've noticed when Jon is up against it, he doesn't turn to wrestling. He turns to that kickboxing. When Jon was up against it against Gustafsson, he turned to those spinning elbows on his feet. When he was up against it fighting Reyes in the 5th round, he stayed on his feet and bludgeoned. When he was up against it with Thiago Santos, knowing time is running out and the score isn't beautiful, he stayed on his feet. I think he's very good on his feet. I'm not willing to concede that anybody can beat him there, but I will admit on paper, Ciryl does have very impressive stand-up resume. Okay. I give you that diatribe because it will appear to a layman that Jon must get this fight to the ground. Okay. We've got it all figured out, right? I mean, this takes us back to day one in 1993 that we learned the first time they set that octagon up in Mobile, Alabama. Striker versus grappler. Classic matchup. All right. That's boring and that's lazy, but it doesn't mean it's not true. I will just offer for you the other side of the coin, which is it doesn't mean it's not false. If you go look at history, and you've got to use history as your greatest prediction for the future, Jon Jones has always wanted to fight, guys, and Jon Jones is pretty consistent. Jon Jones annoys me. He bothers me. But he does that consistently. He's the same. He doesn't change. I think that's relevant because you might have missed this on Jon. You might have missed this, but Jon Jones finds out what his opponent's strengths are, finds out what you, the audience, believes those strengths are, and then we'll go and fight the guy in that realm. If you're a striker, history says Jon Jones is going to come strike with you. If you're a wrestler, history says Jon's going to come out and take you down. If you like country music, history says Jon Jones will play heavy metal on his way to the ring. I mean, right? He will always try to go into your world and beat you at your own thing. He doesn't get a lot of credit for it. A lot of people don't even know it's happening. And frankly, the people that do know, it's not all that cool of a thing, but it is still Jon's thing. And I say that to you because if you're right, if this is Jon's wrestling versus Ciryl striking, I don't know that Jon's going to go wrestle. I mean, if you're right, if that is what this is, if in the final analysis, Ciryl must keep it standing and Jon must take it to the ground, I'm not confident that's going to be what Jon goes out to do. And as I say that to you, I don't know that your pick is changing. I don't know that you're really all that confident that Ciryl Gane can outstrike Jon Jones. I don't know that you believe that. I think if I ask you who's going to win that fight, you're going to tell me Jon Jones. If I say how, you're going to say he takes him down. What if I say, you know what, he's never going to take him down? There'll be no takedowns, but I still want to know who you think's going to win that fight. I think you still say Jon Jones, don't you? And the fact that we're having this conversation, the fact that Surreal was the favorite, the fact that Surreal does have so many tools, the fact that there is some questions around Jon, I think puts Jon in a better and more advantageous position than he ever has been before. I believe one of the reasons Jon left 205 pounds, it wasn't just because those fights weren't selling out. It was because what was expected of Jon took the congratulations away from Jon. And I'll tell you this as a wrestler, but Jon's won too. Jon, he's got the same mindset. And you would rather have the congratulations, good job, than you would the title or the money. Nothing will take you further than that. And when you're supposed to beat somebody and you go out there and you do beat them, so what? Or what about if you're supposed to go whip somebody, but you don't whip them? You still beat them. You dug deep. You did everything right. You dealt with adversity. You still won, but you didn't whip a guy that you were supposed to whip. There's no congratulations. So if you're in Jon's spot, instead of walking out there at a 3-1, a 4-1, a 5-1 favorite in front of an audience that isn't even sold out because they're so sure they know the outcome, what about walking into a situation where just 5 days ago you were the underdog? And even right now, the odds sit closer than they ever have before. And the narrative flat out says you cannot stand with this man. This man will beat you. You must take him down. I mean, that appears to me to be the kind of situation that Jon has been looking for. Precisely the kind of challenge he wants. Precisely the walkout and the environment and the emotional setup that he left the division, gave a world championship, and waited 3 years to get. The more I keep hearing that Surreal's got a chance, the more I keep hearing that Jon's taking too much time off, that Jon's not big enough, that Jon has to take him down, the more confident I get that Jon's going to have success. I truly believe the one thing that Jon was looking for was from you guys. And he wasn't looking for excitement, and he wasn't looking for money. He was looking for doubt. He wants you to doubt him, so he can show you and remind you again just how good he is. And whether it took 3 years, whether it took a change of opponents, if doubt is what he was after, and doubt is what he believes he needs to have to go put on his best performance, I think things are adding up right now. And I think if you're one of the few and you're a part of Team Jones, I think you and your athlete are in a real good position.